am so sick of this bullshit. And, when I said that I wanted to improve the quality of internet discourse, I mean, this is the kind of shit that I was talking about. Look at this comment section. Pathetic that this got 53 comments up. I mean, this is CDC. Virus data does not show that the COVID vaccine is killing thousands of people, right? When I talked about, how educating people into the logical fallacies would improve the quality of internet discourse, this is exactly what I meant. I mean, this whole, comment section is rather pathetic, what's coming out. And I mean, look at this. The current on YouTube, would rather believe their conspiracy theory rather than the truth. So it gets 111 thumbs up, This is not, it's not a stats web, and then we get this kind of bullshit, Nothing to see here, brought to you by Pfizer. Complete propaganda by the Pfizer sociopath making billions off of blind people, to which all I can think to these comments accusing the vaccine industry of greed is quite simply, and I'm getting to it, skeptical libertarian. You just give me a second as it pulls it up in my browser. Jesus Christ. Hate you, Google. Big Pharma versus Big Placebo. I'm going to be real with you in response to all that. Opponents of vaccines and GM foods often promote organics and alternative medicine because you can't trust big pharma. They only care about profits. And then we look at, the billions of dollars that have been produced by the alternative medicine scene, and it's 34 billion. We look at the organic food market, and it's 28 billion. And then we look at, the vaccine market, and it's 12.8 billion. So if it were actually true that these kinds of comments, like brought to you by Pfizer, complete propaganda channel brought by the Pfizer sociopath making billions off of blind people, and that this vaccine is, for profit, and that all this is motivated by greed. If doctors were, as accused, motivated by greed, and that, this were all, as stated, a complete propaganda channel by the Pfizer psychopaths, but, that are just only interested in making billions off of blind people, if that were actually true, then doctors should quit their job and become like you and push alternative medicine and, organic food, because they'll make more money that way. That is the ultimate truth of the reality. If your accusation had any merit, that would be the case. That is exactly what would happen. If making billions of dollars on a type of product is grounds for suspicion, why only focus on vaccines? Americans spend $28 billion a year on organic food and $34 billion on alternative medicine. By contrast, the vaccine market is less than $13 billion. My point is not to attack profit. No business would exist without it, but simply to show how absurd the argument is that because drug companies are driven by profit, the profit motive, greed, that you can't believe anything they say about their products, e.g. vaccines. Money and profits don't become magically better or worse when companies are selling unproven snake oil because of tested medicine. You must look at the scientific evidence to judge claims about products, not the price tag or the bottom line of the companies who make it. Sometimes I hear people suggest that it's the, quote, big in big pharma that is the problem. Money only corrupts when big corporations get lots of profit concentrated in one place. Let's look at the annual sales of Monsanto, big evil GMO company, and Whole Foods. Whole Foods makes 17.7 billion. Monsanto makes 13.5 billion. Well, it seems like making money can't be such a bad thing after all. Again, the point is about profits and the implications on motives, trustworthiness, and the reliability of an industry. If the 12.8 billion from vaccines, 3% of all drug sales, is enough to corrupt and discredit the entire government, pharmaceutical industry, and the scientific establishment, what exactly does 62 billion a year in organics and alternative medicine sales do to their credibility? The answer is nothing. Evidence, not fear-mongering about greed, is the only thing that can settle scientific questions. VAR's report, 12 News reports actual facts about the VARS database that shows that the information in it is legitimately incomplete, and that the information that's in it can't be used to establish an actual causal link between whatever symptoms people reported, because you can go in and you can get a shot and you can be shot, and then experience symptoms and then report it to the VARS database. But that does not mean that the conclusion is that the vaccine caused your symptoms at all. There's a great fallacy at work here, which is,
What else?
The Ryder Cup team is declining our invitation to come to the White House.
You're kidding.
Because of the joke.
You're kidding.
I'm not.
wait for it.
The Ryder Cup team.
It's a group of the best golfers in the country.
I know what the Ryder Cup team is. Thanks, Mrs. Lanningham.
Sir, this may be a good time to talk about your sense of humor.
I've got an intelligence briefing, a security briefing, and a 90-minute budget meeting all scheduled for the same 45 minutes. You sure this is a good time to talk about my sense of humor?
No.
Me neither. What else?
It's just that it's not the first time it's happened.
I know.
Talking about Texas, sir?
I know.
USA Today asks you why you don't spend more time campaigning in Texas, and you say it's because you don't look good in funny hats.
It was big hats.
What difference does it make?
It makes a difference.
The point is we got whomped in Texas.
We got whomped in Texas twice.
We got whomped in the primary, and we got whomped in November.
I think I was there.
And it was avoidable, sir.
CJ, on your tombstone, it's going to read post hoc ergo propter hoc.
Okay, but none of my visitors are going to be able to understand my tombstone.
27 lawyers in the room. Anybody know post hoc ergo propter hoc? Josh?
Post, after hoc, ergo, therefore, after hoc, therefore, something else hoc.
Thank you. Next.
If I got more credit on the 443.
Leo.
After it, therefore, because of it.
After it, therefore, because of it. It means one thing follows the other, therefore it was caused by the other. But it's not always true. In fact, it's hardly ever true. We did not lose Texas because of the hat joke. Do you know when we lost Texas?
When you learn to speak Latin?
Go figure.
Let me elucidate how that abstraction applies to the argument here. Quite simply, just because you went in and got a shot and then experienced symptoms does not mean that the shot caused those symptoms. The VARS database cannot be used to establish a causal link between the vaccine and whatever people report in it. In fact, you could report into the VARS database that the vaccine turned you into the Incredible fucking Hulk, and it would fucking accept it because the information in it has never been complete. So the people that are reporting symptoms in it, are reporting, unexpected results, but we don't know from that data that the fucking vaccine, and cannot know from the data that has been reported, that what is in the VARS database actually proves the vaccines caused any of the symptoms at hand. And I have looked into it and seen reports now that are coming out, about doctors that have actually gone over, the data here. And, oh, look, I found something that actually talks about a causal link in it. And look at it. They actually found that the vaccine actually has killed off, a number of people, but, rather a pathetically small amount of them. More than 8 billion doses of the COVID vaccine have been administered globally so far, and 44.29% of people are fully vaccinated. Pre-authorization clinical trials were carried out by the safety of vaccines is still continuously monitored through post-commercialization surveillance. However, some people are afraid of vaccine side effects, claiming they could lead to death and hesitate to get vaccinated. Here, a literature review of COVID vaccine-related deaths has been carried out according to the PRISMA standards, and understand if there is a causal relationship between vaccination and death, and to highlight the real extent of such events. There have been 55 cases of death after COVID vaccination reported, and a causal link and relationship has been excluded in 17 cases. In the remaining cases, the causal link between the vaccine and death was not specified. 8 considered possible, 15 probable, or very probable, and demonstrated in 14 cases. The causes of death among these cases were vaccine-induced immune thrombotic thrombocyta, VITT, with 32 is what it says, myocarditis 3, which, by the way, COVID will cause myocarditis too, and much more reliably. ADM 1, myocardial infarction, which is also something COVID will cause, and rhambolysis. In such cases, the demonstration of a causal relation is not obvious, and more studies, especially post-mortem investigations, are needed to deepen the understanding of possible pathophysiological mechanisms of fatal vaccine side effects. In any event, given the scarcity of fatal cases, the benefit of vaccination outweigh the risk, and the scientific community needs to be cohesive in inserting that vaccination is fundamental to containing the spread of SARS-CoV-2. So basically, the weight of the evidence shows that, if the vaccine has killed anyone, it's killed such a small number of people that it doesn't matter. Those people are not statistically significant, and we should continue vaccinating because the benefits outweigh the risk. I hate to come across as cold, but that is the scientific reality. If your vaccine, saves millions and millions of lives but kills 17 people, well, then it's done a world of good. And once again, we have the problem here with vaccines and how post hoc ergo prop, applies to it, which is to say that just because you've got a vaccine doesn't mean that there are not other complications or other variables at hand that are more adequately explain your symptoms. It doesn't. How do we know that if you got the vaccine and then experienced, severe side effects, that you were not already suffering from, health defects that were caused by other factors? I mean, how do we know that you're not overweight? How do we know that, you've taken good care of your heart, that you've taken good care of your lungs, that you haven't smoked, for your whole life, and, and you smoked a bunch of cigarettes? I mean, how do we know any of these fucking things about you, Can you prove that you weren't a smoker, or are you just going to claim that you weren't, You have any evidence that you don't, These things, they're all relevant objections to this idea that, you've got the shot and then experience symptoms, and then, so therefore it caused it. I mean, like, this is the problem, and I mean, I think it's rather pathetic how YouTube would prefer their conspiracy, dumbassery to, scientific empirical truth. I used to think that this was, noticing the current of atheism and, scientific, teaching on this platform, that it would, in videos that actually are reliable and teach science, that, there would be more reliability of this. But, I constantly seem to forget that, in the early days, Vaxxed and all the propaganda channels that were, infected this platform, and all the misinformation that spread like wildfire through it. And it continues to live. I mean, every time a media organization comes forward to debunk anti-vax bullshit, there's always those people that, would rather cling to their persecutory delusions, and, their delusions that, probably began in the past when Andrew Wakefield defrauded them in an attempt to, replace the MMR vaccine with his own vaccine so that he could make millions of dollars, and, clearly was tainted by the greed himself, and yet is still to this day, among a certain element, revered as if he's some kind of god or hero, when in fact he's a, profiteering monster who is likely responsible for the deaths of tons and tons of children.